always reluctant to be a celebrity right from the beginning?
But I don't think of myself as a celebrity. I don't think I am. To me, that's a dirty word, really.
Well, I mean, reluctant to be a pop star then, or reluctant to be famous?
I don't like pop star either.
I know you don't, you've laughed. I mean, no, famous. You can't argue with famous.
Infamous, I would prefer.
Celebrated. Cherished.
Oh, cherished is lovely, I don't mind that. I mean, I find it completely ridiculous, this obsession with celebrities. The important people are surgeons and doctors and people who actually put people back together and make a difference to people's lives, not somebody who's in an ad on telly. I mean, okay, so that's valid for what it is too, but why so much attention on something that's so shallow?
Some people seem to kind of want fame just for itself. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that, I can't understand that. I mean, you find that kind of difficult because fame, which you've undoubtedly attained, is almost like the unwanted byproduct of what it is that you do, isn't it, really? Has there ever been a time where you enjoyed the fame? When you were younger, did you enjoy being Kate Bush, the pop star? I noticed you laughed when you said pop star, because you obviously don't see yourself as a pop star. But you were a pop star. I saw you on Top of the Pops doing the #1 hit single, so you must have been. Did you ever enjoy that?
I think still there are lots of times when it's fun. Yeah. And I think that's important if you can, to try and keep it fun, because, you know, in a lot of ways it's quite ridiculous, really. What I desired was not to be famous. And I think that's the difference. I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to make a record. That was the big thing. And I was on a mission from God. And that's what I was going to do.
Were you always nervous about that? I mean, at the beginning, it must have felt, as a young girl, and the music must have felt great.
Nervous about what?
Being known, being famous, being bothered when you go out.
No, I thought it was absolutely hilarious at first.
Even at that age, you kind of, you know...
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was... My first record was very successful.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, a big surprise to everybody, really.
Was it a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was. I didn't expect it to do as well as it did. I mean, I hoped it would do well, but it was an extraordinary success for a first record.
You'd worked quite a long time on that, hadn't you? Just very briefly, I don't want to go through all the thing again. I mean, you were kind of signed to EMI for a long time, and they let you alone to sort of find your feet a bit, didn't they?
Well, that's what they say.
Right, so they were pressurising you all the time?
No, they weren't pressurising me. It was quite the opposite. I wanted to make a record, and I think, in a lot of ways, what they did was they signed me because they could see that there was potential there. Then they just left me, and I think there was an element of them not wanting somebody else to sign me. I mean, through the help of Dave Gilmour, I had at least 2 of the tracks that were on the first album. That was what was presented to the record company. So Man with a Child in His Eyes basically got me signed. I hear him before I go to sleep and focus on the day that's been. I realize he's there when I turn the light off and turn over. Nobody knows about my man. Looking back on Kate Bush at that time and how you used to present things, I had a flashback to that Not the 9 o'clock News, Pamela Stephenson. What was it? Say, "Oh England, my leotard," or something. Do you remember that? Yes, I do. Did you find that flattering? Maybe you found it insulting, or maybe you thought, no, I've arrived because I'm being taken off on Not the 9 o'clock News, which was the biggest TV show of that era. Well, I was very flattered because, I mean, she was very beautiful. I think at the time I was very nervous because I was worried that people were just taking the piss out of me, because I was having the piss taken out of me so much by everybody. But I saw it a couple of years later, and I thought it was brilliant. It was really wonderful. You were marketed in quite a sensual or sexual way, weren't you, at that time? I don't think I was marketed. Well, the photographs that came out at that time were... But, you know, very sensual photographs, weren't they? Very womanly photographs. There was nothing wrong with that, but was that kind of... Did you go along with that, or were you quite surprised to see some of the images when they came out? But you make it sound like it was something that was put together against my will. I don't know whether it was or it wasn't. I mean, you were young. It would be quite understandable. You mean the early photographs that you used? Yeah. Well, no, because at that time I was a dancer, and I think... That was what you saw yourself as first and foremost, wasn't it? No, I saw myself as a singer, but I was also a dancer. And how do you present yourself as a singer in a photograph unless you're standing in front of a microphone? I was very comfortable in my body. I was a dancer. Most dancers are, you know. All the dancers, when I was in dance classes, used to wear leotards. There was no big deal. Yeah.
The Man with the Child in His Eyes, clearly the work of a teenage prodigy. As you'd expect, Kate's new album Ariel is a more mature affair, but it's no less passionate than her early work. But the record also has a playfulness that's really refreshing. She's not afraid to have a laugh. The two songs we talk about next illustrate Kate's playful side and her passionate spirit.
Sensitive man with an obsessive nature and deep fascination for numbers.
When I first heard the album, I didn't have any track listings, and then the next one seemed to be a sequence of numbers, and I listened to it a few times, and then I picked up on 3.1. And I thought, I'm pretty sure from my basic mathematics, which I haven't done since O-level, because that's how old I am. We are. I think we're about a month apart, actually. I thought that sounds like pi. So why are you writing about numbers in that way? Why did pi become the subject of a song?
I really liked the challenge of singing numbers. Because numbers are so unemotional as a lyric to sing, and it was really fascinating singing that. Trying to sort of put an emotional element into singing about a 7, you know, and to really care about that 9. And
did you care? I mean, was that?
I really cared.
Why
about that
are you hooked on Sudoku or whatever it's called, number puzzle or something like that? Are you a numerate sort of person?
I find numbers fascinating. I mean, I think the whole idea that nearly anything can be broken down into numbers is a fascinating thing. And I think also we are completely surrounded by numbers now in a way that we weren't, you know, even 20, 30 years ago. We're all walking around with mobile phones and numbers on our foreheads almost, and it's like, you know, computers and, you know, numbers are a very integral part of how we live now.
It's often been said that Kate Bush could sing the telephone book and it would sound fine to me. And you've kind of almost done it, really, because it's a sequence of numbers, isn't it? But why pi?
Well, I think...
That's the dog snoring, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think he thought much of that question. He's getting fed up. I suppose, you know, I find it fascinating that there are people who actually spend their life trying to formulate pi and trying to take it just a few more numbers further, because... Yeah. You know, when I was at school, it was a recurring number. It didn't go into the details past the point, really. So the idea of this number that, in a way, is possibly something that could go on to infinity, and yet people are trying to pin it down and put their mark on it and make it theirs, in a way, I guess.
Then you got a song, Bertie, about your son, in a kind of medieval sort of style that then leaps in consecutive tracks from singing about numbers to singing about your son, you know, to the most emotional subject you could go for there, really.
I suppose, really, you know, with a song like that, it could never be special enough, from my point of view. Here comes the sunshine.